Liam, any further reflection on last Saturday? Now you've had a week, no, nearly a week to kind of mull it over and look at it in a slightly different way. Any further reflection on last Saturday's game?
Uh, I think right. It's not about spending the whole week in it. I think I watched the game back straight after on Saturday, as I often do. We obviously then spoke about it as a group on the Monday, reflected on it, did some video work, had a real good meeting with the players about it, collectively and individually. And like I said, I think we take the learning from it and we move forward. I thought there was a lot of positive aspects, especially second half when we look at the control element. But I think that probably the emotional aspect after the game, the element of probably frustration is just the fact that we know what we're capable of. But it's also managing expectations of that we want to get there and we will get there. But it's also a process you have to go through to get there. So we took the learning, but then after Monday it was very quickly then onto the game we've got tomorrow.
And you talked a lot about fluidity. Is it about on-field fluidity, about the side making decisions, not necessarily without you having to tell them from the sidelines? And that so it's not just about players playing alongside each other and getting used to the way they play, but it's about those processes on the pitch, those decisions that made quickly to tackle problems.
Yeah, a combination of things. I think that in terms of understanding each other's games would be one. So the more you play with somebody, understanding each other's strengths, weaknesses, and just a connection between the two of you becomes stronger. So it's definitely that element. There's obviously, the styling that we play, which, we've such a reputation as a club on the style now that, players coming in, understanding that and getting up to speed, how we work on it, but not overlooking the fact that it's built on being really hard to beat and having really strong basics. And I think that's the bit, that sometimes take a little bit of a, adjustment. If you think, if you look at where players have come from, it is different what we're asking them to do. So it also takes a little bit of time for them to understand that. And I think the biggest thing that we probably spoke around after the game was don't not be you, bring you individually. So of course it's, about the team and the principles of how we play in the style, but within that, we give the players a lot of scope to bring their own individual qualities and we empower them to bring, their personalities to the game, which is, the big thing as well. We've got some real quality in the group, and that's the big challenge. Going into the game tomorrow is, of course, the team style and principles, but within that, bring a bit of personality, try and have an impact on the game, bring your qualities and your strengths out, and and it's a healthy arrogance to back yourself to show what you're about.
We've just spoken to Jack, and I'm curious. Throughout our time having conversations about players and about recruitment, you've always talked about the culture and about the type of people that you bring to the football club. I'm just wondering how that process works, because every time we speak to somebody new, they seem to be somebody that's got the ability to convey what you feel and buy into what you want, and has the same ethos. And there's a certain amount of respect in the way that they do their business. The players that we speak to, where does the process start? Is it led by the character, or do you have to first and foremost find out a little bit of data about that particular player and make sure they're right, and then check their character?
Yes, definitely. The footballer aspect obviously is key. They've got to have some qualities from a footballer perspective. So Jack's a great example. When you look at him in terms of physically, you look at the number of games he's played. You look at his defensive qualities that he's shown numerous times at Gillingham. You then obviously do the homework and research into what they're like as a character, and some of that you can see when you watch games. So it's not always looking at actions they do with the ball. It's how do they react after a goal? How do they react after a mistake? In good times, do they, when the team's flying, do they stay level-headed and stay grounded and stay disciplined with actions? You can see a lot of that, in the game. And then off of it, obviously, there's a lot of conversations, getting references of people that have worked with a player or know the player. And then, obviously we meet them before they come in. So then it's also, how do they carry themselves in the meeting with us? How do they conduct themselves? And look, I think it's them just being really clear and honest. And I think, we lay down, this is the culture, this is what we expect before people come in. And again, I think that's really important. They know what they're walking into, so that, we create accountability. So, when it's not quite right, then obviously we can refer back to what we said in that initial meeting. So I think, looking at it, we brought in some terrific people and characters that have got them, some really high level, attributes as players as well that, I'm really excited to see the journey of some of these guys over the course of, the next 3, 4, 6, 12 months.
And that I'm fascinated by by the process within football, and I don't want to get boring about this, but it's really interests me, because this isn't just about football. This is about life. This is about the way that you do business when it comes to recruitment. You could literally pick that up and put it into any business, any company in the world, and that would be a happier company that was working better if you're in those processes. I just wonder. Sorry, I'm rattling on. I just wonder. I just wonder if you've ever gone through the process and actually, at the end of it, the data's been right. They've looked good on the pitch, and then you've met them and thought, no, not for us.
Yes, is the exact answer to that? No, look, it's something I'm extremely passionate about as well, and I can hear that in your question as well. It's something I find really fascinating, intriguing, because culture is so important, and then especially the way the world is now, and technology and how people are communicating now, the actual face-to-face stuff and the values in people are so important, because it is it's becoming harder at times to find them attributes in terms of being able to give real clean, honest feedback. A lot of people, as humans, we don't naturally want to hear it. So, it's also finding players that are coachable, which is probably one of the most difficult attributes to find. Can I coach him, and can I make him better? Is he able to learn the game? So you can get a good person, you can get a good player, but if you then can't coach them and make them better, then it's a different challenge in itself. So you're never going to get it all right. I think that's the biggest thing. But what we do really stress is that before anybody comes through the door, they know what we are. We're about person first. We're about culture. We're about the behaviors that we work at. We're about getting better and improving day in, day out. And that's then what leads to the results, in terms of individual improvement, but also, team performance and team results.
Well, let's talk about football, the actual game, rather than everything around it now. You must be looking forward to Saturday for a number of reasons. A, bounce back from the opening day defeat against Cambridge and put some of the things, maybe, or try and put some of the things right that weren't right during that game. The home game after being away from the stadium for so long, and up against a side who are likely, I mean, who knows how the season's going to pan out, likely to be up there at the end of the season. It's a big afternoon, isn't it?
Yeah, big afternoon that one that everyone at the club, players, staff, fans should look forward to. I think that's the big thing for me. Is it's a really exciting game. There's going to be a real good noise in the place. Pitch is looking terrific. Lads have trained well this week, so that's the big thing for me in terms of when I've spoken a little bit around us going through a journey, going through some good times, bad times, experiencing that to achieve our our potential as a group. And that's the big now. How do we bounce back? How do we respond? What are we about as a group? And having seen them this week, I'm confident going into the game. The lads are going to step up and go and deliver us. I think that's the biggest message to them. Sheffield Wednesday, look, we know in terms of the resources they've got, the size of the club, the size of the fan base. The fact that they've recruited players from teams that are gone up to the Championship, back down to League One, speaks volumes about the size of the club. But for me, it's about us. I just want to see us turn up and do us. I want to see us try and impose our style on the game, us try and take responsibility for everything we do, and play with a bit of confidence, a bit of personality, a bit of energy, and get on the front foot. And that's, when we do that, we're at our best, definitely.
Any update on Mo?
No, he's still working away, to be fair.
Right.
He's still quite a way off. So, we're not going to be seeing him in, the next 4, 5, 6 weeks.
And what about Tenai Watson?
T's had surgery, so he's out for a little while. So he's looking really strong pre-season, so he's out for a while. But he'll get back as and when. I think it's important that we look after him and make sure we do everything properly to not rush him back, to get him back, so that we can keep him on the grass, because he's such a big part of what we do.
And I'd imagine that's a bit of a blow for Tenai, isn't it? And as well as obviously the physical side of his recuperation, there'll be an element, and it comes back to the culture and the way that you do business. I guess it comes back to that when you say look after, it's not just look after physically. I'd imagine, like any footballer in this situation, look after mentally as well.
No, definitely, and I think it's still really important. I think you used to be that if you're in the the treatment room, you don't get spoken to until you're back fit, and it's very much moved on since then. I think we will involve him very much in little bits opposition, whether it's looking into coaching badges, whether it's doing some media stuff with obviously the guys here. It's very much how do we keep football at the forefront of his mind. His priority obviously has to be the rehab and getting himself back as quick and as strong as possible. But alongside that, he's still a footballer. He's still passionate about the game, and we did it last year with a few of the guys when they were injured, and it was really beneficial. They then came back highly motivated, and in terms of mentally ahead of slightly ahead speed wise, in terms of being ready to go in the game, because we've challenged them to study it in bits when they're out.
Thanks, Liam. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Staying briefly on that injury front, Josh McEachran obviously came out of the game on Saturday. How's he doing?
Yeah, it wasn't great news, to be fair. It looks like he's going to be out a little while as well, which is a real shame. Josh was, he had a really good preseason. He, looks strong. His running was good. He looked confident in his running as well, which was another big thing. So it's a bit of a setback, but Josh has been through it before in his career, and he's got that resilience and that toughness and the emotional control you need to then focus on what you need to do to get back. And again, he's someone that we'll continue to lean on in his experience and what he brings to the group, because he's a real big part of what we do.
And having gone through that, as you just mentioned there with Luke about the mental side of things, it must be a really tough blow as well for these guys to get injured quite so soon into the season or even in pre-season, because you're building towards all of this, aren't you? And for Josh to go out in the first 30 minutes of the first game is it's a big psychological blow as well.
Yeah, it certainly is. But again, I'm very much in terms of we're not going to be able to change or control that. Let's look at what we can control, what we can focus on, and I think collectively we also bigger picture we are fortunate to do what we do. So although it's a huge blow and it feels like it is, we have to make sure we focus on what we can control, and that's how we don't now respond. What does your program now look like? How can we get you back in as quick as possible, but like I said before, as safely as possible. So there's no point dwelling and focusing on the emotional side too much.
Something that obviously got a lot of the fans' chins wagging was a picture of David Martin that appeared earlier this week. Obviously, a big fan favourite at Stadium MK. I understand he's been training with you for a little bit now. That's just purely for fitness, isn't it? Is bringing in David Martin?
Yeah, it is. He's been terrific, and it was one, for him to keep ticking over to stay, football fit and stay sharp. And since he's been in training with us, he's looked sharp. He's progressively got better. Obviously, in certain aspects of the small-sided games and the finishing stuff. So he's a terrific character, and he's been really good for the group, in the time that he's been with us. So he's like I said, he's training to stay fit and to stay sharp, and he's done really well.
When it comes to researching games at the start of this season, can you afford to look back at last season's games with Sheffield Wednesday, for example, given that you've changed so much, given that they've changed so much? Is there much credence in looking back on them, or is it? I mean, I know you say you concentrate on yourselves, but when you look at that opposition, how hard is it to do your research, given that we're so early into the season? You've barely seen anything of them.
Yeah, I think for us as a group of staff is gathering as much information as we can. So obviously, Darren, terrific job there. Especially end of the season, they finished extremely strong. So, I think you can definitely pull out certain trends and qualities that will be the same because of certain personnel being the same. So it's not going to be a completely drastic change in how they go about things. So we can definitely pull out certain bits. But again, it's what do you take from that, and what do we filter through to the players? That's probably the most important aspect, and it's pulling out the bits of information that we think are most important, which we then give to the players, and then it's a case of how do we now get success against that. So it does always flips back onto us, but it's also around giving the players a little taste of what they should expect to face.
Nice one, thank you, mate.
I'm just going back to the injury front. Is there any update on Danny Harvey?
Yeah, Dan's out running now, so he's heading in the right direction. He's not a million miles away. So been really pleased with how he's looking. His running's looking good. Physically, you can see he's added a little bit of muscle as well. So he looks in good shape at the minute as well. So he's not a million miles away.
Obviously, the real serious business has started now in terms of games, but we're still in transfer window. With these injuries, has that affected plans for any possible incomings or outgoings before the window closes?
Not massively. I think the plans pretty much stayed the same. I think we've got real good depth. I think that's what we've worked really hard on this summer to recruit and add. So when you look at it, when you look at the squad and some key players missing as well, we've actually still got the depth now to for me to put out a really strong side tomorrow and then have a really strong bench. So when I look at the depth we've now got in the group and what we'll with everybody progressively getting better, it's actually a really exciting time to see how the group's going to evolve. So the recruitment plans don't change from losing Josh last week.